Hey, I'm Allison Hare. I am a former corporate executive turned coach and keynote speaker for women making big moves. And I am on a mission to help you and me create more space and freedom and fulfillment in our busy lives. Welcome to the Late Learner Podcast, where here we are ditching some of the outdated norms, the ones that we are all taught to live in. And what we do is we find way more modern solutions that just plain work better for you. So what are we late learning today? Well, I'm getting a whole bunch of life lessons dished out to me right now, and I figured it's probably time to spill a little bit of tea and let you in. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a forewarning that I'm doing this episode a little bit differently today. I'm going to go a little more freeform. This could be a complete shit show. I'm not even sure how long it will be. I'm just going to kind of speak from the heart, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. It's actually really intentional to kind of unhem some of the loose ends that I may have maybe tied a little bit too tightly before. And, as always, I'd love to get your feedback on it. But first, let's get to the good stuff. What is stuff? It stands for the surprisingly true, useful fun fact. And I wonder, do you sit around and get scared about aging and the possibility of cognitive decline? Maybe you've got relatives or loved ones or people that you really care about just struggling with dementia, struggling with Alzheimer's, struggling with forgetting keys and wondering, oh my God, am I next, right? Well, it turns out that music is the key to helping men keep mentally sharp. A new study has come out of Memorial University in Newfoundland, and their most striking finding is that there is almost virtually no difference between participants in their 20s or in their 80s in picking out musical themes that they were asked to identify. And it held true in any age and all pieces of music, regardless of how familiar or unfamiliar they were in what musical style it was. So, can you take a moment, take a look at your daily calendar and schedule a 15-minute music break for yourself and just let go. Just let loose, right? And I know for me, I'm generally not great at memorizing lyrics, but if you give me a good Beastie Boys song or Bjork from the 90s, miraculously, I still know them all. So let's turn our music up and see what we can do. Okay, back to the life lessons and updates. All right, so I'm going to share with you a couple of things. So there are a couple of changes or a couple of things that are going to be happening. And I'm going to go totally kind of off script here. I've got a little bit of an outline to help me, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I feel like I'm in a little bit of a liminal space. And, just to kind of rewind, if you're new to me, I spent over 20 plus years working in corporate sales. And so I worked for companies like Salesforce, DocuSign, ADP. And 2 years ago, I left the corporate world on purpose with no plan. I don't recommend this approach, but I left it on purpose because of profound burnout. And so I have taken this path where I was like, I've got to get to the bottom of burnout. I've taken some non-traditional approaches to help kind of heal and unwind and learn and unlearn and all of those things. But I started a coaching practice, and I started working with a personal brand strategy firm. It's called Brand Builders Group. And if you're interested, I can link their info in the show notes. And when I started working with them, it became abundantly clear that I wanted to help women like me, people that were over functioning. They may be experiencing or worried about, am I getting towards burnout, where they are functioning on such a high level, where their schedules are so packed and everything was about achieve. And that is what we were taught. That's what we were taught as kids, where our parents would say, you can be and do everything that you want as a woman, and you should, And also, you should stay skinny. You should stay pretty. Make sure you don't age. Make sure that you act in a certain way. Don't be too loud. You can voice your opinions, but do it in a way that isn't too much, right? So we got a lot of conflicting messages. So I started to coach women. And I started doing it one on one. I started doing it in a mastermind and group coaching space, and it has been amazing. And I found myself in a bit of a liminal space. So in June, this has been super exciting. And just to kind of, you know, take the curtain down a little bit, when you are kind of building a business from scratch, building a coaching practice, building your personal brand, it typically is a 2 to 3 year journey, 2 to 5 year journey, really, to go from like branding and initial things to really scaling. In some cases, of course, you can go faster. You can go as fast as you want or as slow as you have to. But when you are kind of working in this space and kind of figuring it out and building it from the ground up, and this is probably true of any entrepreneur, that they're going to be really great, exciting months. And then there are some where you're like, what in the hell did I just do? Couldn't I just pick an easier path? Couldn't I pick a little more of a predictable path? So I've been building and building and building and building and kind of going through a little bit of this roller coaster, but everything has been kind of clicking together and finding more clients and helping and serving them and getting them results and the outcomes that they wanted, and realizing, wow, I really do have a framework that works. I really do have coaching chops that work. And I think in the month of June, I had my biggest month. I had my biggest month that I've had since leaving, which was so freaking exciting and so much to celebrate, where I've brought on more clients than I've had. And I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but I do typically work with women, coaching them through big career and life transitions. So if you're going through a divorce, if you're going through a move, if you're looking to start a new business, start a new career, or even shift careers, or maybe even get out of a marriage, or looking to maybe you have a blended family or a new thing that you're trying to figure out, how do I get through this and come out the other side? This is where I shine. Like, people call me and they're like, Allison, I'm so upset. I got laid off. Like, I am celebrating. Like, great. Now you get to design what you want. You have this opportunity. You're in this fertile ground where you get to design what you want on your own terms. Are you ready for it? And so, that's kind of the space that I play in. But I also have been helping people with podcast coaching. That many years ago, I've had this podcast, Late Learner, for over 5 years, 5.5 years almost. And it's an award-winning podcast. It's globally ranked thanks to you, and thanks to you listening and tuning in and telling your friends and sharing and reviewing and all of that stuff. It really means a lot to me. But early on, when I had started my podcast, I have a degree in broadcasting. A lot of people had asked me, can you help me with mine? I've always wanted a podcast. So it's not something I advertise, but it's kind of come back up lately. So I'm working with 4 or 5 clients right now and helping them launch their podcast. In fact, I'll give her a shout out right now. But Rachel Lacosta just launched her podcast. It's called A Beautiful PA Life. And so it is dealing with burnout for physicians assistants. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Physician assistant. So she has a beautiful podcast that just launched. We always want to celebrate that stuff. So I have brought on all these clients. I've been able to focus on like the things that I'm really, really good at: coaching, mentoring, podcasting, something I feel so passionate about, keynote speaking, being able to talk about what's important about the change culturally that we want. So I've been able to play in all these fields, which is exciting. And also to get rewarded by having more clients say yes, being able to make the money that I have wanted to make and be able to do it. And what I realized is that, oh my goodness, when I started to look at all the clients that I got, and over the past year, and I'll probably do a separate episode on this, And I'll do a separate episode on this, on really social media. But over the past year, I've built out my website, all the copy, the messaging. I've worked with incredible experts, social media, refined funnels and email and, all kinds of stuff. My podcast, all of this energy and love that I've poured into like building these frameworks and being able to communicate it effectively. But when I looked at my clients and the people that were saying yes, they were all people that have come to me through personal connections. And so while I think the social media and the blogs and the podcast are so helpful in terms of credibility, visibility, awareness, they help. They have not been the driving force. And so that liminal space that I've talked about was because I was like, wait a minute, where am I spending my time and energy? And is it going to be the most effective? And the truth is that maybe I need to adjust some things. So I'm adjusting some things. And so one of the things that has really hit me that recently I've interviewed a therapist who specializes in high performance relationships. And we talked about why so many high performers struggle with relationships. And it's not just with your partner or spouse or somebody really close to you. In a lot of cases, it can be friendships, it can be coworkers. And so one of the concepts we talked about, and I can link it in the show notes, just a few episodes back. His name is Jason Van Ruler. He's awesome. And I've gotten so much feedback about it. But he talked about the concept of self-isolation. So self-isolation is when things aren't going great and you kind of feel like, I need to go under a rock for a little while and figure this out on my own, because I don't want to show people that I'm struggling. I don't want to show people, like people come to me because they want my happy, confident self. And the self-isolation that we talked about was one of the hardest things that high performers especially deal with, is not being able to share where they are. And so I'm kind of using this space where it came where I was like, well, where do I spend my time and energy? So I started looking at, do I go all in on the podcast, kind of retool it a bit? My podcast has always been my baby. It's what I love the most. This has always been like, even when I was a little girl, all I wanted to do is be on the radio. And so do I go all in on the podcast? Do I go all in on keynote speeches? So I've done several of those, but I haven't really gone on tour. I haven't really focused on doing keynote speeches and being on stages. It's not something that I've pursued, but something that I have a ton of capability and have done it, just not consistently. Do I do that? Like, how do I really build some more personal connections? Or do I go all in on social media and like, rearranging stuff so that it just lands. And so with all of these, the messaging became really, really clear, is that I needed to do nothing. I needed to stop because I needed the time to unwind. And one of the recurring themes that have come up, not just with me, but in the culture, in the zeitgeist, it's kind of my job, right? To look and see, like late learner has always been about how do we change a culture, or it has been through how do we live life better for ourselves so that we can change the culture. And it always comes back to taking care of each other, of the relationships that we have, taking care of each other and asking for help. And, to be truthful, people like me, maybe people like you, it doesn't even occur to us to ask for help. I mean, certainly, yes. Can you tell me like who is a great doctor? You'll ask for help for that. But if it's like, can you help me move my furniture? Can you watch my cat? Can you help me that I'm really struggling right now? Can you help me? And we have a really hard time with that because we are the helpers. We are the fixers. We're the ones that people come to when they're struggling. And so I went to a live music show this past weekend, and I saw an artist, a musician named David Ramirez. He's a singer-songwriter. He's got this voice, like this Johnny Cash kind of voice. And I highly recommend looking him up, checking out his work. It is kind of somber, right? And he said something. I saw him live in this private listening room that I was at over the weekend. And he was storytelling between his songs. And he said, times have been tough since the beginning of time. This is our moment to endure. And endure we will as long as we take care of each other. I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills. And the reason why this stood out to me, I've heard this with people in my world, in my DMs, with my clients, even with myself, that the level of anxiety, they call it the anxious generation, is through the roof right now. Like the levels of stress and anxiety seem to be relentless. I remember December of last year, where it felt like you were clawing, bloody, sweaty, beaten into the finish line of 2023, hoping to God 2024 was going to be better. And you start 2024 hopeful, and then February rolls around and dry January is over. You kind of go back, and then you kind of forget about some of the goals that you have. And what I've noticed that we are in, when this releases, it'll be August, so middle of the year. A lot of those dreams, or goals have been kind of abandoned. And I feel like there is a level of fatigue and a level of anxiousness that are just kind of being normalized in our society. It just is the way that it is. So I'll say it again. Times have been tough since the beginning of time. This is our moment to endure, and endure we will as long as we take care of each other. So this is kind of like the rally call to let's help each other out. Let's not self-isolate. And I am saying this to myself. This is why I'm doing this episode. And really, here is the big news. I'm going to take a break on releasing new episodes of Late Learner. And that now, okay, don't cry. It's not forever. I'm still here for you. I've got a plan. And also, I'm going to be releasing episodes still every single week. So normally I release new episodes every 2 weeks. I want to go back to weekly. It's what I've always loved, but I'm going to be releasing episodes still every week, but they're going to be replays, but they're going to be so poignant for this moment that we are in. And if you're a new listener, I don't want you to miss it because, again, this is my 219th episode of this podcast series. And there are so many episodes, especially politically, of how do we navigate this moment? How do you help change people's minds? Is there hope to unite the left and the right? How do we figure out the identity piece of the tribal identities that kind of make us up, where we are truly unwinding ourselves? We're untethering from some of the identities that we are in. So if you are somebody that's in your 40s and above, there is an identity shift that happens naturally. You've just been beat up enough where you're like, wait a minute, everything that I thought may not have been the truth. And if I'm going to redefine it again on my own terms, what is it going to look like? And so I'm going to be taking a pause. I don't know for how long on the new episodes to regroup and really kind of answer those questions of what's next. What is the voice that I want? And I really want to talk about where this is coming from and what has been so apparent for me that it's almost crippled me. It's almost crippled me as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's got a microphone, has got an audience, has got listeners and readers and people that engage with me every single week. And one of the things that I've noticed that has come up, which I typically don't consider myself a perfectionist, but when it comes to my podcast, it's something different. It's something that has taken over, that has become crippling to me. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of an idea of why I'm doing this. And, I think about a lot about taking off the mask, right? I feel really vulnerable all the time. I don't feel like I keep a lot of secrets. I feel like I'm, kind of out there talking to you and just open, I'll answer anything. I don't feel like I'm hiding a lot or trying to keep close to vest. So it always feels like, yeah, all the masks are off. And turns out they're not. And it turns out I need to do some deeper excavation. So when I'm doing this podcast, there is a level of perfectionism that happens. And I'm going to be so truthful and honest here, is that I'm so afraid that there's going to be a moment of boredom, that I need to earn your trust and your ears and your time and your energy and your attention every moment. And if I don't, if there's too much filler, if there's too much, is kind of like my crutch. I hate it. And often I'm editing out the knows, because I'm so afraid that if you're annoyed by me stumbling over my words, or me not getting to the point fast enough, or asking too many compound questions, which I have been guilty of doing and I'm actively working on, you're just going to tune out. There are endless number of podcasts. There are over 6 million podcasts that are out there. So the time that you spend with me is really valuable. So what I do is I take really, really great care that when I edit an episode, that it is combed through so meticulously that I am getting to the point. And I realized, and my friend Brian Green, who, if you're listening, Brian, thank you. I love you. Brian Green is the host of The Commercial Break. It's one of the biggest podcasts in the world, the biggest comedy podcast in the world. And that podcast started out of my podcast launch program when I started in 2019. Brian and I are really, really good friends. And I was explaining to him about this perfectionism, and he's like, Allison, because I was marveling at the way so many podcasters like Kate Kennedy of Be There in 5, or The Commercial Break, where you can just kind of run on a rant and it is done live, where I'm like, wow, I couldn't imagine doing it live without being able to edit and clean it up on the back end. And he's like, people that are going to tune out are not your people. The people that are going to tune in are going to want to hear your voice, and they're not going to want to hear you so polished. And so that's kind of the page that I'm taking here of, what does it look like if I stop trying to get it so cleaned up in under 30 minutes and make sure I deliver value and just deliver it home without explaining or over explaining, or essentially just being what it's like to be with me. And so that's where I am. And so I think with the perfectionism part, I'm trying to undo that as it relates to my podcast. And when I have thought about, like, I get pitched a lot from my podcast, and I've been really uninspired by some of the pitches that I get. And the way that I've done for the past 5 years, I've had some of the biggest guests on earth on my podcast. And really, I'm very proud to have hosted Seth Godin and Jesse Itzler and Mariel Hemingway, and people that are really, really big, if you know who they are, in their circles. And if you don't, you can just trust me that they are really big and just incredible gifts to have them. Some of my podcasts, some of my favorite podcasts, are people that people don't really know. And they don't really know them, because they are doing things differently. And they don't have to have the loudest and the biggest Instagram platform. to be able to be the smartest, or to be not even the smartest, the most interesting, to be the most mission driven, to have a different approach that may not have been homogenized or taken and run. Like, I love finding those emerging ideas that are coming out that once you put into place and you explain it, it works, and it works better. So, late learner, I've always committed to having people that are doing things differently, that are going to knock your socks off, that are going to help you live life better, that are not the stuff that you hear on every other podcast. And honestly, I've just kind of kept my eye out in the world, and have just, if my brain lights up, I'm going to get them on my podcast. I'm going to get them on my show. And so that's always been my approach. And there are some people that I've had or turned away on my podcast because I know that if I'm not interested, or if I'm not lit up by it, you aren't going to be either. And so I've been a little uninspired, and I'm trying to kind of regroup with that. So that's a little bit of too much truth. I think my head has been a little bit too noisy to let my heart sing. And so that perfectionism has been kind of, like adding a layer of it needs to be, like I'm like Lenny in Of Mice and Men, where I'm holding on so tight, where it's time to let go. And now I'm entering into a new era. And that frustration precedes growth. And one of the things that I have noticed in my life is distraction, and how easy it is to be distracted by social media, how easy it is to be distracted by my kids. They are truly my biggest distraction, and they are not going away. I love them, and I love that distraction as well. But, it is something to be juggled. And so what does that look like? So I have a little bit of new focus that I'm working towards. So one is that I want to limit social media more. I am the first to say I am 1,000% addicted. It is what I do in every single moment of just doom scrolling, whatever it is, meme sharing. I love the memes. I feel like they're a lifeline. I'm a big fan of memes, but I think I need to limit social media more. And, I call it post and ghost, where, I'm happy to share and kind of post, and I'm doing more on Instagram stories of just kind of posting and storytelling in it, because I've got a lot of things that I think could be interesting, but also it helps me kind of share what's going on and be more open about it. And so, I am kind of a super scroller, a super texter. I feel like I need to be connected at all times. But one of the things that I'm doing right now is I am training for a half marathon. Now, let me explain to you. This girl has never been a runner. I have always been, not always, but over the past decade or two, I have been very, very active. I've done CrossFit. I've worked out. I never need to be motivated to work out. It's just part of who I am at this point. At one point, it was not the case, but I have conditioned my lifestyle enough where I will do yoga times a week. I will do high interval training, like circuit training, a couple of times a week. I'm also a dance fitness instructor. I'll also do that a couple of times a week. But running has never been something I love. And in fact, I would spend, like, I could spend hours dancing, but 1 minute running feels like death to me. And so I signed up to do something called Running Man. Running Man is a festival. They call it where Burning Man meets, what is it? Coachella, where Burning Man meets Coachella, or like a running festival for people who love to run. And so I went last year. I love the organizers. Jesse Itzler is an organizer. Devin LeVake is an organizer. If you don't know who they are, if you follow them on Instagram, they are an incredible follow and just fascinating from start to finish. And the people that they attract to their events are really why I said yes. These are people that think differently. They are super supportive. They are like people I've never met anywhere else. And they are constantly like, how can I help you? And their brains just think in a different way. So I'm like, let me put myself in more situations where I am talking to people and surrounding myself with people that are doing incredible things that have not been done before, or they're pushing themselves, pushing their bodies, pushing their minds in a way, in a positive way that has not been done before. So I went last year. I loved it. I did a 10K. I know that you can do what's interesting about Running Man is you can do a 5K, you can do a 10K, you can do a 25K, a 50K, a 100K. You can do no K, really. You can run it if you want. You can walk it if you want. You can do it. Some people would do where they would run 4 miles every hour on the hour. And they would, once they finished their 4 miles, they would do a cold plunge and a sauna, and then they'd go back to the starting line at the top of the hour and they would run again. And they would do that until they were done. And so it is a different festival that it's not like, here's the starting line and you better finish first. It's more of a personal goal. It's not for necessarily for time unless you want it to. So it's a 1 mile track that you just keep going around until you hit that. And so I did 10K. I've done a 10K once before, many, many years ago. I know I can do a 5K. So I'm like, let me just do a 10K. So I did it. It was pathetic. I didn't train for it, but I finished it and that was fine. And really, that's not what I was going there for. It was more just to be in this space, these type of people. And what I saw in that Running Man last year was the inaugural one, is so many people would come and they say, I was going to do a 5K, but I ended up doing a marathon. And I'm like, what? So why am I limiting myself? So I'm doing a half marathon. I'm training for it. I am looking to change my relationship to running. And what I noticed last year when I was at Running Man, I kept telling people, I'm not a runner. I hate running. I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. I hate running. I hate running. I hate running. And I'm like, that does me no good. That does me zero good to continuously tell myself that I am not a runner, that I hate running, because I signed up for it. I'm just going to do it. Right. And so the same thing goes here where I'm saying I'm changing my relationship to running. So I'm going out, I'm training, I'm going multiple times a week. I do find that I have found myself that I love endurance challenges. I've done 2 12-hour walks. I've done solo overnight hikes. I've done solo hikes up to the tallest peaks of, I did North Carolina. I can't wait to do Colorado. Mount Elbert is the tallest peak in Colorado. So I have this list. I want to do all 50 states to do the tallest peak in all 50 48 48 lower 48 states. See how I'm tripping over my words? I'm going to not edit that out. You're going to see it, right? I'm just going to leave it all in. Thank you for being patient with me. So, okay, so back to the half marathon. I've done all of these things, these endurance challenges. And what I learned about myself is that I require an inordinate amount of time to unwind. That the years and years and years and years of working myself, overworking myself, being a workaholic, overfunctioning, overproducing, overthinking, over all of it, is that it's not something you just walk away with and you're fine and you're on a beach in Fiji and everything is cool, right? This is something that requires time to unwind. And I know not everybody has that time to unwind. There are ways I have found through these unconventional methods to get pockets of it where you can start building. But for me, I need time and space. And sometimes I feel a little bit guilty of it, that my husband and my family, sometimes are required time to leave and just be gone so that I can be gone long enough where I can get out of the head space and get back into the heart space, because it takes forever. I have a lot going on in my head. I'm sure you do too, right? I'm a chronic overthinker. And an overdoer. So some people overthink and don't do. I do both. And so part of it is unwinding both of it. And so some of my new focus is finding something new and challenging to pursue. and being a beginner, being sucking at something again, which I'm all about. I love that. So I'm trying to figure out like, what can I suck at next? So if you have ideas, DM me, send me a note. I'm on Allison__hair on Instagram, or, email me, whatever it is. But I'm looking for something new and challenging to pursue. And really, I'm just looking for new ways to go deeper and understand myself. Because when I'm on autopilot, what feels really, really good to me is getting shit done. It is so easy. It feels like I am a champion in that space. I've mastered a lot of things in terms of discipline, and that feels really, really good. It feels really, really good to get stuff done. And what does it look like to unwind all of that? And so, I truly believe that the best coaches have the best coaches. And right now I'm under the guidance of some legitimate badass mentors that I'm kind of putting in place to help me with this, because when left on my own devices, unchecked, self-isolating, I'm going to do what's comfortable and what's easy and what feels natural to me. So I'm trying to put like the people, the chess pieces in place to help me get, like, I truly am in a new era. I'm at the beginning of a new era. I don't know what that era will be defined by. Maybe you feel this and relate to it, and I need to make sure I've got the right people in my corner to help me do this, because again, on my own, I'm going to be doing the same thing where I work to burnout. Then once I get to burnout, I'll climb a big old mountain, get a little bit of a reset, come back, and then work to burnout, and then do it all over again. Now, what needs to be done is like, we need to do a pattern interrupt. We need to stop the madness that I don't want to do this until I die. I want to have a better, more fulfilling, more intentional life. And so I started to think about, what are some things that I've really, really mastered, and what are some things that I've worked, really need working on. And so this is totally being honest here. So some things I've mastered: discipline. I'm really, really disciplined. There are a lot of reasons for that, for good or worse or whatever, but I'm really disciplined. I am excellent at getting started. And in fact, I had Catherine Morgan Scheffler on my podcast, and she wrote the book, The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control. And we had the most illuminating conversation. It became really clear of what kind of perfectionist I am. I'm a messy perfectionist. And what that means is that I am start happy. I love to start things. There's no anxiety. I'm all in, just jump right in. Just give me a path, light it up, clear out a little bit of brush, and I'm just going to run full force and figure it out. But I get a little bit perfectionistic in the messy middle. And so I know this about myself, but I'm disciplined about getting started. I love that. Working through it to completion. Time management is something that I've completely mastered in a lot of ways, where I can time block in a way and be able to accomplish a lot in a short amount of time. I actually feel like my brain turns out in a way where it just, spend a lot of time kind of organizing and fitting things in like a Tetris, where I'm really, really great at like getting a lot done in a short amount of time. I am known for honoring commitments and being super, super productive. And communication. I'm really, really great at communication. Now, why am I telling you about all the things that I've mastered? Am I trying to toot my own horn? No. But I think it's important to acknowledge some of the things that you are really, really strong at, because those are the things that can help other people who may not be as strong, or may be wanting to kind of fine tune those things. So if you're thinking about, what is my next era? I want to kind of turn it back on you, or what are the things that you've mastered where you could really, really help somebody? So I wanted to kind of insert this message right in this moment, that if there are things that I just listed are things that you're working on yourself, it might be worth exploring, leveraging my expertise to help you get the jumpstart you need. So if you're in a position where you're looking to find a coach or a mentor and help you get clarity on what is the change that you actually want? Like, what I feel is that some people feel this restlessness of like, I know this isn't it. I don't feel great. I don't feel awful. And I feel thankful for all the things that I've got. I've got so much to be thankful for. But why isn't it better? And if you're feeling like you need clarity on this, um, maybe you want to put a strategy together and help you get there. Like, what is the change you actually want? What is the strategy that can, kind of build those blocks to get you there and kind of help you realize those outcomes? And you're looking for somebody to collaborate with you every step of the way and hold you accountable. There is nobody on earth better to help you unfreeze yourself from the starting line than me. This is like one of the things that I've been clearly put on earth to do, is to help people with this. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just trying to leverage what I have learned to help people, because it works. Because sometimes you just need the right people in your corner, whether I'm the right fit or not. That really is up to you. I don't know. But I have a couple of spots opening up as a coach, a couple of coaching spots opening up as I am closing up some coaching engagements right now, which is super exciting, to see what my clients have achieved. And I can't wait, like I get to send them off. Like my goal is not to work with people forever. My goal is to give people, kind of a results-based coaching technique to give them all the tools that they need. And again, I'm here for support after, but like, let's look at a limited time to help you get where you need to go and make sure we can kind of accelerate you on the right path that you need and give you the coaching, accountability, strategy, execution, all of that around it. So I've got a few spots opening up right now. I can't wait to see the types of badasses that I get to work with next. So if that speaks to you, I'm offering a free 45-minute brainstorming call with me. And if I feel like I can get you the outcomes you desire, I'll show you the process of how we would get you there and walk you through how it would support you through the next few months. If it is not a fit, I will do everything I can to either help find you the right person or platform that will be a good fit. There's no lose. There is only win. So before my schedule packs out, book a time with me at AllisonHair.com/schedule, and I'll link it in the show notes. And for me, it's really important to me that as a coach, I'm always in it with you. And that's why I'm sharing like so honestly about what I'm struggling with. I kind of detest some of the one-dimensional portrayal of some coaches and mentors that are kind of out on social media right now. And not to knock their stories, but I have found, and I've honestly been, I don't know if duped is the word, but I've kind of been pulled in or roped into some people's stories that I'm so inspired by. But then it becomes so one-dimensional where it's like, I used to be broke and now I don't worry about money. I'm wealthy. I was about to get a divorce. And now we have this incredible marriage and all of this stuff where it feels like, I don't know what it is. And I've even tried it, to be honest. Like my husband and I have an incredible marriage. Like our home life is so happy and I'm so proud of it. And I started to think, like, I've had mentors tell me, Allison, go help people with that. Go help people. You know how many people would kill for that. And every time I would start to talk about how great the marriage is, it felt awful. It felt like I was monetizing my life. And I don't want to do it like that. I want to do this as like, it felt like I didn't want to be, I used to be burned out and now I live on a beach and I never worry about anything again. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels like life is hard. Life is hard. And if life is hard, and it doesn't mean it's always going to be hard, you're going to have moments of joy. You're going to have moments of celebration. You're going to have moments that inspire you and awe and all the things that are wonderful. The expectations and where this falls short is that the expectation is it's always supposed to be bliss. And that's not life. And I feel like I've had the most life-changing, life-affirming moments. I feel like I used to be here, now I'm here. Let me show you what I've learned. What I have noticed is that the paint by number course or the paint by number platform doesn't work for me. I've tried everything. I've tried every mastermind, group coaching. I've done B School. I've done Amy Porterfield's email list thing. I've had people help me with, all different courses and kind of things that I've tried to learn on my own and just, okay, I'll do anything. You just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But I didn't understand why when I would do it, it wasn't landing because I needed somebody in my corner helping me. I needed somebody to hear me. I needed somebody to be walking with me, not just take my money, here's a course, and you're off. I needed somebody on the path with me. Again, sometimes you have to seek somebody to help you out. So here's some things that I'm really actively working on that I'm really struggling with right now. One is stillness. Stillness, like I feel comfort and I feel power in motion. I feel meditation in motion. And I'm personally working with an amazing coach. Her name is Sierra Burton. And on this, and she's been helping me incorporate some really, really useful practices to kind of unwind and learn how to settle into the discomfort of stillness until I can hear my own voice again. So I think the lesson here is like, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. I think a lot of people are kind of searching for not the shortcut. I mean, of course, we all want shortcuts. But sometimes the path to wisdom, to more fulfillment, and really hearing your own intuition, hearing, God, universe, whatever, for me, it's God, like hearing God's voice. I feel like it's been so quiet because I have not shut up long enough or been still long enough to listen. And part of that is like the discomfort of, Sierra always talks about like, it always takes 3 days. It takes 3 days of feeling like, why am I doing this? This feels awful. 3 days. And she's right. And so I'm working on stillness. All the best coaches have the best coaches. I've always invested in coaches and mentors because I just feel like I'm going to get so much further faster when I've got guidance. And also, I don't have to listen to my own bullshit excuses, okay? Ugh. Okay, so stillness is one, slowing down is another. Slowing down of like, how can I carve out time to just be still and not grab my phone? Limiting social media more is another one. Hearing my own voice. Again, I require more time. I require more time and space. And so how do I find it when I have such a busy life? And probably the same for you. When you've packed out every moment from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed, how do you find stillness long enough or time and space long enough to hear your own voice? Another thing is self-compassion. I did this. I was tasked with this a few months ago from the great Cindy Robinson, who has been on my podcast, no joke, I think 13 times. She's one of your favorite guests. She's unbelievable. What an incredible human and a different approach. She had challenged me to write down every single thought that was negative in 1 week that I would say to myself. And I started to note it and was like, oh my God, I had no idea the kind of things that I say to myself all day long to get me out of bed, to get me out of the door, to get me dressed, to get me to do all these things. It needed to change. So self-compassion is something that is, and again, I had no idea. And I imagine, I would encourage you to do that too. Like, what do you say to yourself? The words we tell ourselves mean a lot. And so there's a lot of intentionality around this. And then the last thing, not last thing, but like the last thing I could think of right now, there's probably a ton of things I'm working on, is enoughness, like being enough. It's something that I think is interesting, is that I'm hearing it echo in my son's words. My son is 11 and he is starting football. And my son is smaller in stature. He's already getting picked on. He had his first practice last night and he hears people making comments about him. And he said, I'm nervous because I don't feel like I'm good enough, that these kids have been playing a long time and I'm just starting. And I think about, wow, like, and my husband and I had a conversation with him about, like, those bullies are never going to go away. They're always going to be people. What does it look like to build yourself? And I know that the one thing that I can help him build is his self-esteem. And that's not a false thing of I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. But like, how do you deal with the shittiness? How do you deal with the muck, the enoughness, and know that you are plenty enough? You're amazing. All of us are. Even though people are judging us, I would say, I feel like a lot of this stuff is like towards the end. I hope you're still listening. I would say one of the biggest fears that I have heard speaking to so many people who are trying to create a new path, and maybe they are veering from a traditional path and they're like, I have this dream. It has been kind of weighing on my heart. I have no idea how to make it real. And I'm so afraid of what people are going to say. Like, who am I? And I feel like updating your LinkedIn profile with a new title is one of the scariest things, and what stops most people from realizing the dreams that they want, that enoughness. Wow. And I've been there. It took me a long time to update that I was a coach. I was just kind of leading with a podcast, or I would say I was a coach, but it wasn't entirely clear. And I think about how many instances have we stopped ourselves because we're afraid of what people will think until you've proven yourself. So that's the thing, like enoughness about without proving or over proving yourself. So as far as this podcast goes, you're going to get refreshed episodes delivered every week, and I'm going to take a moment to regroup. This is part of the unmasking process. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sure it's going to look, the message has always been the same. Maybe the format will be a little bit different. Maybe the guests are always going to be kick-ass, because I don't let anybody on this podcast unless they're going to deliver incredible value to you. And as always, I'm in it with you. I've figured out a bunch of things that I'm excited to share and help you clarify, organize, execute, and realize in your own life. And it's not always easy. It isn't always easy. And that's the expectation part that needs to be managed. That if it's going to be hard, it's so much better when you're not alone, when you're not trying to figure it all out and feeling like I'll come out from my groundhog's hole when there's light. I'll come out when people aren't going to see me struggle. And what if it's, better to have, I don't know, what if it's better to just be honest and be honest about what that looks like? So if we know it's not always easy, it's always better to have the right people in your corner when things feel dark or unsure. And again, if you're looking for a coach or a mentor to help you in this next phase of life, might I suggest taking action? Not sitting on the sidelines anymore. Your life and your dreams are too important to put it off. click that button that says book a call. Say yes to that retreat that you've been kind of thinking about or kicking around like, should I do this? Can I figure it out? Say yes. Make sure that the people that you are spending money with are legit and they're not smoke and mirrors. Do your homework with it. That's for another episode. And if you vibe with me, let's go. Let's go. Book a time at AllisonHair.com/schedule. I'd love to talk to you. And honestly, I'd love to hear what you think about this episode. If anything has kind of resonated or brought you value, or even in your time with me, if you're new to me, I'm so glad that you're here. If you're not new to me, and you have seen value, can you please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify? Can you leave a written review and a rating? It helps so much when you subscribe and follow. When you subscribe and follow, every time there is a new episode, it's going to be delivered right to you. It's going to be delivered right to you so you don't miss it. And it means a lot to me. It helps me grow. It helps other people find me as well. That's it, y'all. What do you think? This is me. This is just me without the mask. I probably talked too long. I probably rambled, probably said a lot of ums and ahs and you knows, but I kind of felt like you were across from me at the coffee table and we're having a conversation. And I'd love to hear from you now. I've talked enough. What is it that you're struggling with? What is it that you would love help with? What is it that you are wanting next or feeling in your heart? I'd love to know. If I don't see you on the socials, I'll see you next time I come back. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Late Learner Podcast, everybody.